Hi folks, David Lefevre here with ERISAfire Benefits Compliance Solutions. We are back in the studio, and for this episode of Too Long Didn't Read, we're going to cover recent Cobra developments in 6 minutes or less. 3 things have happened recently that employers and brokers need to be aware of. First, the Department of Labor issued new model revised Cobra notices. Second, there's been a flurry of activity concerning Cobra notice class action litigation. And third, the Department of Labor issued guidance extending various deadlines using what we call the black hole period. Let's take a look at the first. As I said, the Department of Labor has issued revised model Cobra notices. All that it really did was it added a new question and answer paragraph concerning the interaction of Cobra and Medicare. Our recommendation to employers is just to add this to their current initial rights and election notices. Do not use the model notices by themselves, at least not without having them reviewed by counsel. The model notices for a long time have had loads of problems with them, and those problems are highlighted in our second development, Cobra notice class action litigation. Plaintiffs' attorneys have picked up on, one, the difficulty of communicating Cobra to people, and have filed class action lawsuits designed to gin up settlements. These are strike suits, never intended to go to trial, but instead designed to be settled for their nuisance value. The allegations are over rather minor notice content issues, things like including the Cobra administrator's address only and not the ERISA plan administrator's address. Other allegations are more substantive, like they fail to adequately describe what happens if a Cobra eligible individual does not elect things or does not follow the Cobra notice procedures precisely. Most employers don't have control over the content of their Cobra notices because they've outsourced it to a third-party administrator. So what we're asking is that people have their notices reviewed simply to understand the exposure that they might have. Where are the gaps? But most importantly, be very discerning in how you respond to participant requests for documents under ERISA Section 104(b)(4). Normally, these are used to get the plan document, 5500 SAR, et cetera. But plaintiffs' attorneys are also using these to get information on Cobra notices. So be very discerning in whether and how to respond to these, because it may not be the case that the person is entitled to the documents. Whereas before, it may not have mattered. You can just hand over the documents because what does it really matter? In this case, what you're going to be doing is providing a Cobra notice that could wind up leading to a class action lawsuit. The third development is probably the most important of the 3 here, and that's the extension of certain deadlines that happened when Department of Labor issued some extension guidance a number of weeks ago. And what it did was it created this kind of black hole period, and it applies to both Cobra election deadlines and premium payment deadlines. And the way that it works is that no days in counting the 60, 45, or 30-day period can be used if they occur in the black hole. So what is this black hole? It begins March 1st and ends 60 days after the expiration of President Trump's national emergency declaration concerning COVID-19, or earlier if DOL says so. And it has the effect of significantly delaying deadlines under Cobra. Then some things employers need to be aware of are that they still must offer and, if elected, enroll people in Cobra coverage. And when they do elect it, that coverage is retroactive. This relief was only applied to the employees or former employees' ability to elect and pay for Cobra. It didn't do anything to help employers. Case in fact, employers are still required to timely pay their health insurance and stop-loss bills. Let's go through an example to see exactly how this can impact an employer. Let's assume that the national emergency declaration ends on August 31st. That means the black hole period is going to end 60 days later, October 30th. An employee is laid off in January, coverage ends later that month. A Cobra election notice is sent February 7th, and the normal election deadline would be 60 days later, or April 7th. But with this black hole period, the days from February 8th to February 29th can be counted in the 60-day period, but nothing from March 1st to October 30th can, and the new deadline is December 7th. It gets even worse when we look at premium payment deadlines. So let's take the same employee. The declaration we're going to assume ends on August 31st. The employee is laid off in January. Coverage ends January 31st. Cobra notice gets sent. But this time the employee elects Cobra on March 15th. Now, normally, coverage is retroactive to February 1st. That's still the case. Coverage is retroactive to February 1st. But because the 45 days for this first payment occur during the black hole period, the normal deadline of April 29th is no longer the deadline. Instead, all the days from March 1st to October 30th cannot be counted against the 45 days, and the new deadline to pay is December 14th. This means that the employee can elect Cobra coverage and not pay for it for a significant amount of time. Making things worse, the black hole extension applies to every month's premium payment deadline. Now, this has a number of effects that employers need to be aware of. First, there's a tremendous adverse selection risk. Cobra has inherent adverse selection risk, and this just makes it worse because employees have much, much longer to wait to see if they want to elect Cobra. There's premium exposure for insured employers because you still got to pay the bill. There's claims exposure for self-insured employers because when somebody elects, they're going to be incurring claims and you have to enroll them in coverage. Their claims can be suspended for a period of time, but there's a limit to how much you can do that. Mishandling Cobra, even if you've outsourced it to a third-party administrator, can lead to accidental self-insurance in the case of insured employers or denial of stop-loss coverage for self-insured employers. The risk mitigation tactics that we are recommending are possibly, one, to subsidize Cobra and exchange, ask the Cobra participants to abide by the normal deadlines. Now, to be clear, you can't block them from enrolling in Cobra or otherwise make them abide by the original deadlines, but you can withhold the subsidy part if they don't abide by the normal deadlines. Second, for self-insured employers, make maximum use of claim suspension or pending of claims as much as possible. State law and network contracts may limit that, but make maximum use of it. And for insured employers, changing to carrier-administered Cobra. The reason insured employers are in the middle is because they have to collect money from the employee and pay the carrier. One has been delayed, but the other has not. Put the party with both responsibilities with the carrier so that it has to both deal with the employee and manage its book of business. Well, that's all for this episode of Too Long Didn't Read. If you have questions concerning this or other benefits compliance issues, just ping us on the in-app messenger below.